My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and Tony, you're back.
I'm back. By popular demand.
Oh, sure. Right. It's all those ratings, right?
Yep. 5 stars.
5-star reviews. All right. Well, listen, Tony Lindauer is in the house, and today we're excited to give you a good podcast on how your environment is affecting your health. And it's something that Tony and I have been talking a lot about, why one client is successful and another client maybe struggles a little bit more. And we just noticed some things as we're coaching people because, you can start to understand patterns and behaviors and why people do what they do. And it's also a little deeper. So today we're going to take you through a journey of how your environment is actually affecting your health. And so let's start from the beginning. Let's go all the way back to childhood. Tony, what do you remember about your childhood and food?
No, there's all kinds of I would call it programming and association. And this is all a responsive environment. So that's why we're talking about environment. When you think about environment, it goes much deeper than just the general definition. So when I think about food, I think about trying to eat it really fast, not having enough available. Those are 2 of the components that come up.
And why did you have to eat so fast?
When you have 2 older brothers that are identical twins, they're 3 years older. So,
but they'd steal your food?
Yeah, sometimes.
Really?
Yes.
So funny story is Arin and Tony's second date. Where were we? Chili's?
Applebee's?
No, it was Chili's.
Come on, the song.
No, it was Chili's.
All right, Chili's.
Okay, whatever. Anyways, we wouldn't dine there now, but
it's all good.
Probably not.
No.
But we were eating at Chili's, and I will never forget, I had barely taken 2 bites of whatever, and all of a sudden I looked over and Tony had devoured his entire entree. And what happened?
It's gone. I ate it all.
Well, I was like, what just happened to your food? And he was like, oh, sorry, I eat fast. And I was like, that's not even eating fast. That was inhaling. And that's where I learned he had 2 older brothers. And
yeah. So that I still kind of struggle with that. I'm more aware with that component, but I didn't identify it until later. Even with myself, I would consume food really, really quickly. And it's association to my environment that I was exposed to as a child. I had 2 older brothers, and when my mom would buy, something that was, I wouldn't say high quality, something that was
yummy.
Yes, I would put it there. Yummy, probably sugar related. For example, would be some type of cereal that, not the generic, because typically it was generic. If she would buy the more expensive one because it tasted better because it probably had more sugar in it.
Probably.
Yeah. We would sit down for breakfast. And as I was finishing my first bowl, because we would, if it was good, we would have multiple, unregulated. I would look over, and my brothers were finishing it
the box
after 4 bowls. So it was always a struggle to make sure that if I wanted something that was yummy like that, now if it was healthy, they'd leave it alone.
Right.
They would eat it really quickly. So it left a program based upon my environment with me, that in order for me to or some type of association with food that I had to eat it fast.
Eat it fast. Yeah. So I'm curious, how many of the listeners out there are feeling this, because that's a very common thing growing up and having older siblings and not having enough to go around. I've talked with multiple clients over the years that experienced stuff like that, where they had to bring into awareness about slowing down their eating and just the association and why they felt they needed to do that. Another thing that comes to my mind is, we grew up in the time frame where all the food became more convenience driven. I think we also started living where more women were in the workforce. It was more acceptable that women were working. And so I believe that was part of why you had the box dinners, the hamburger helper, the, frozen dinners, the frozen pizzas, and it became such a convenience part of our world. And I mean, that's what we grew up on. I remember having a huge pantry stocked. I mean, completely stocked, to the point where stuff actually went bad that was sitting in there, which was always interesting, because my mom would be like, well, check the label. And I'm like, oh my God, if it can sit here for 3 years, this is weird. But I didn't know what you didn't know, right? And they fed us this convenience, quick and easy, fast meal, 30 minutes or less. And then what about this? The fat-free. So that was a huge push. I remember growing up, because we would get fat-free everything. Or what about the country crock margarine tub?
Yeah,
Did you have that?
Yes, whatever that was.
I don't even think that's real.
No. Yeah, I mean, obviously we were right in the age, and some of you guys can relate to this. I was in that frame too, where I started seeing my mom started doing a lot more of frozen dinners. Mm-hmm. We always had stuff in a freezer, and we had a freezer, and it was full of. I mean, it wasn't full,
deep
but
freeze,
yeah. So she would buy X amount. Specifically, it was on sale, and store it in there, because obviously she was feeding growing boys, so it was always a challenge to budget that and have food available. But it became a convenience factor. I remember some of the a lot of fried foods. The deep fryer was a big popular thing, and who knows, that thing is that's scary as well. The Crisco deep fryer, the Swan Man.
Was that all that trans fat?
Yeah, I believe so.
The Swan Man, that guy didn't. China bought that. A company out of China bought that.
So we didn't actually. The Swan Man was too expensive for us, so we got the knockoffs from the the generic version from the store, but. Anyway, that's, we were obviously the age of convenience, quality started suffering. I think the marketplace started changing from, quality, and it became more sustainable as far as for the companies to put things in the foods to last longer. But that's a whole nother podcast and things of that nature. But you got to look back and think about your environment, what you were exposed to, what was your association with food. We will talk some other components of environment, but we're talking about food right now, because obviously with coaching nutrition, we see a lot of different habits and things that appear, or I would call them, some of them are programs that appear from people. Example would be, this was used on me, and I know this is going to obviously resonate with a lot of people, is clean your plate. Yep. Clean your plate. Yep. Well, that caused a lot of people to overeat or overconsume.
Yeah.
So if you think back, you may have heard that as well.
Yeah, and those are the kind of things that we want to bring into your awareness here today, because first and foremost, you have to be aware that there is deeper programming. Nobody just means to overeat. No one intentionally goes and puts, garbage in their body. At least I don't think most do, right? And
yeah, there's association. Obviously, there is some components out there that the addictive or the response of the endorphins and the
what you get from it.
It becomes an addictive component based upon what's in the food.
But what we want to do is just, number one, highlight that sometimes this stuff is pretty deep. So when a client is beating themselves up or feeling like a failure because you just can't seem to get out of different patterns, or you keep feeling like, okay, I have 3 good days and then all hell breaks loose. And then, I go on a binge fest, or we go and dine out and I absolutely make a terrible decision, or, in your own defense, maybe you don't realize you're making a terrible decision. But where we want to go with this is this stuff runs deep, and we all were raised. Our parents did the best they could with the resources they had and the understandings that they had at that moment. But some of this stuff runs pretty deep. But the cool thing is all of these things can be reprogrammed if we are aware. And so it's understanding, we can't go back and like change our childhood, nor would we want to, right? Like that's part of who we are. But on the flip side, what we want to do is we want to understand, are these things serving us or not?
Yeah. So it takes awareness. And I would say one of the main things you want to do is self-awareness, take and evaluate your association and your habits. Is there emotional responses? Controlling your emotion is so important. And this obviously goes for food, but it goes outside of food as well. Is when we coach, we talk a lot about this, or at least I do in my program, is the person who can control their emotional state has the most control. Because if you let your emotions control you, then you may do some things that are not conducive for what you desire the outcome to be. So understanding how you respond to certain situations, specifically to food, how is an emotional response? And then one more layer is evaluate your environment. What does your environment look like? Are you set up to be successful? And then here, we're going to go one more layer, because I talk about this again in my program, is what is your standard of operation? What do you put in place for you, and you don't want to go below your standard?
Yep. And so now that we've fast forwarded through reminiscing of childhood, now we've become an adult, and we're in control of our environment. And we have to look around and say, is this environment conducive for you to be successful? Now, number one, we have to define, what does success look like? So let's understand, if someone is wanting to lose weight, well, if the pantry is stocked full of chips and cookies and, all kinds of temptations, the ice creams, the whatevers in the house, well, that's going to be a very, very challenging environment for most people to be in. So what do we do when, and I've had this with clients, is your husband brings home cookies, or your husband brings home, he says, hey, I'm going to go get the groceries, and he buys all this junk. I mean, what is a woman to do? Because she feels like she's failing the second he walks in the door.
Oh, yeah. I mean, is that a test or is it a failure? No, to be serious, that happens a lot, right? But you can't blame somebody else for your results. That's not taking personal responsibility. That's a whole nother component. But here's what I would say. Communication, being on the same page is very, very important. Why wouldn't your husband want you to be successful, look good, feel good, be confident? I mean, so that's a whole nother conversation to have, because everyone in the environment you have personally should be on the same page, and that's a communication component.
Exactly. And maybe they're not per se in a weight loss phase or whatever that looks like, but they should be aware that, hey, neither of us need this. Okay. We don't need the chips. We don't need the cookies. And that's where it really does turn into, what is your standard for your household? What is your standard as husband and wife, partners? Like, what does that look like? What are the different responsibilities? Also, to take it a whole nother level, is your house inspiring? Is there junk everywhere? Is there clutter? Are things dirty? I understand that like life happens. Even for us, it's like, oh my gosh, we got to get this under control. But for most of us, we do so much better when our actual space, whether it be your home, whether it be your bedroom, whether it's your environment at work,
office space,
is it inspiring, or is it, full of junk and clutter? And, do you just need to take a second and tidy it up? How much better would you feel?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a whole nother layer. Like, we were associating a lot of this environment components and programming with how you respond to food. But environment can impact your well-being as well. What I'm saying there is how you feel, how inspired you are, how motivated you are. That can all be environmental based. Most people are just not motivated. You have to create the motivation. But if you're in a space that is clean and things are put away, you're gonna act different, feel different, and there's gonna be a different energy.
Yeah, exactly. And like even ourselves, like I make lists of different, okay, the pantry needs reorganized, this drawer needs, because we all have it. We all have like the spaces that tend to gather things. Here recently, like I couldn't handle my drawer in the bathroom, and it had accumulated stuff. Like most of it was even unnecessary, to be completely genuine. And it finally just came to a head. Every morning I look at that drawer and I was like, God, I need to organize this. But that is not the time and space. So, okay, when is, but I had to just like create the time. And now getting ready in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, this feels so much better. I mean, Tony, you have a little thing with, the garage. Yeah.
And most people, I mean, Arin and I both like things in a certain fashion, clean and put away. I would say some of the components are minimalist, almost, don't like clutter. Same thing with the garage. If that's messed up, it's going to create some type of chaos component, some type of energy it's not going to be serving, and it can create more stress. That goes across the board in the environment that you control. So having things put away, having things in a place, having things, in a certain fashion is going to help you navigate certain situations easier and have a better outlook.
Yeah, it just creates a better environment from the mental capacity, and you feel more inspired. And so that's something too. There's also a whole nother layer you can go with cleaning out your closet. And this is a really important exercise that I encourage women to do, especially after they've lost a fair amount of weight, is, hey, you need to go through that closet and get rid of those clothes. And a very normal response is, well, what if I go back? And so that there shows me she still has attachments to the old version of herself. And the second we let go of those clothes, we're not going back. This was something that even I personally had to do when, I had, God, what was it, like 26 pounds on my body. And I kept holding on to the maternity clothes, the really stretchy clothes. Remember all the cardigans?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Tony was like, why are you wearing those all the time? I'm like, because it covers everything up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it felt so good to bag that stuff up, take it to Goodwill. And I was like, okay, that woman, she got me to this point, but she no longer exists. And honestly, it was a defining point. It was like, you know what? I'd never had that kind of weight on my body, and I'm never going to have it again. And that was a very isolated time and space. I know exactly what happened and why, but it was okay to let her go. And so if you haven't done that exercise, especially if you've lost weight, do not hang on to old sizes. Absolutely not. Do not hang on to those old sizes, because we are not going back. And that is you telling your unconscious mind you're not going back.
Yeah, there's incongruencies there. So you have to let the past go, because you in order for you to become a new person, you have to let some of the old components go, and having incongruencies and keeping some of those articles around, and you're incongruent with who you need to become.
Exactly. And this all spills into our kids. The thing that we wanted to take this topic as well is understanding like how this impacts your kids around you. Now, maybe your kids are grown and this may be less of a point, but it's a point to understand that everybody in your sphere of influence is impacted by you, and whether it be good, whether it be bad. And so it's really understanding your language and understanding how your actions with food, if you're always the foodie, if you're always the person that's bringing goodies in, if you're the one that they're always bringing you, chocolate or candy, or, you think about all these different situations that people people would have food brought to them, and it's a challenge, right? Like when someone's trying to lose weight. Have you worked with guys through this?
Yeah, in some formats, but a lot of times what I'd like to communicate with these guys is, hey, where your spouse is at with this? What, is there a supportive component? A lot of times what it is one or the other, male, female, starts the journey down the path of changing and changing environment, where the other one starts to mimic. So we're a mirror of each other. And what typically happens, and I have this conversation, I was like, hey, do you have a support system at home? If you can fix a support system, it's a lot easier, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes there's again, incongruency there, and they're on different pages. And yes, they have to navigate. And, or what I see a lot, some of the guys I work with, the environment they work in is very challenging from a health standpoint. So what do you do there? There's a couple different things you can do. You can disassociate and let everybody know, hey, I'm on a health journey. You're not going to disrupt it. Here's what I'm going to do. And, or you can help change the environment you're in.
Exactly.
And be the inspiration for change.
Exactly. And that was something, like, even when I worked in a cube farm for that very brief moment, the person who had the candy drawer was the most popular person. Everybody would go and visit them because obviously they got a piece of candy. And what was interesting is I was always the outcast. I think there's no way I would have ever fit in that place long term. I guess I could. I'm flexible. But on the flip side, I started walking around the walking path on my lunch. Part of it was sitting inside, air conditioning. I freaking hate that. But then it was just being outside and the sunshine. I remember just going and sitting outside and just wanting the heat of the sunshine. But I started to get other people walking with me, which was kind of cool because I was like, this is a cool thing. And I remember it was always like the best day, I'm using air quotes, when we had pizza day. And I'm like, this is disgusting. By the time we get it, it is cold. Why is anybody eating it? And it was just like, it was just so wild to me, but I'm so thankful for that experience because I can appreciate what does go on in workplaces. And so how we have to really understand is what is going on around us. How in control are we? Well, here's the cool thing. No one's forcing you to eat the food, right? Now, our kids may say we are always 2 more bites of protein, right? But it's important for you to display the characteristics first. You cannot say, well, it's because of my husband that I can't lose weight. That's completely releasing any control. He does not control you. You get to decide what goes in your mouth. And it's a lot easier when you take personal responsibility, but then just also understand that your children are going to mimic what you do. Again, if maybe your eating habits weren't the best and now they're grown up, you can still install the good habits, because when they see you at the next family get together, when they see you and all of a sudden, hey, what are you doing? Like, you look so good. And, for a lot of women, they'll be like, well, I just started eating better and I started walking. And, most people think, oh, that's too easy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and if you do have younger kids like we do, it's creating an environment for them to be successful. So, and Arin does an awesome job with this, is having, food around that if they're going to consume or overconsume sometimes, because they do that, they'll sneak in there and grab stuff when we're not, present right there in the kitchen. They've figured that out. They're at the age they do that now. And when our son overate strawberries, I just looked at Arin and I just kind of chuckled. I'm like, well, how do you think it'd be mad at him? He just consumed a ton of strawberries.
So it wasn't just the small, little pint of strawberries. It was the big boy, right? Yeah. And I had washed them, cut them, all mamas and daddies that do this know my pain. But you had just gotten those all put in the container. And where was the container?
Yeah, in his bedroom.
I was like,
where we told him not to take stuff.
Yeah, we were like, first off, don't have food in here. Second, you just ate all the strawberries.
And I looked.
Could be worse.
Yes, I looked at Arin. I'm like, how are you gonna get mad at him for overeating strawberries? But obviously, we want to minimize that type of action of overeating or consuming and balance that out. But with us changing the environment, he could have overeaten eating what? All
Anything.
kind of bad things that we choose not to have it in our environment.
Well, and what's interesting too is after those strawberries, so I went to go get more strawberries because he was like, "Mommy, we're out of strawberries." He just loves strawberries, which is great, but they didn't have any, and I said, "Well, sorry about you, bud. You ate them all."
Yeah. Yep.
So kind of learning a few lessons there.
So you got control your environment. You can dictate how your environment is designed, and being very specific, design it for success.
Exactly. So first and foremost, you've got to know what it is that you want. If you're going out on a health journey, which we would tell you all day, every day, that is your number one priority. Like nothing else matters until you have your health. And so you have to decide on what it is that you want. And then you got to start taking account of all the things around you, because you want to set yourself up to be successful, and no environment will be just perfect.
No.
You're going to make it what you can make it. And you're not always going to have a partner who is on board 100% of the time, but you are in control of yourself. And so the more personal responsibility we take along this journey, the quicker you see results, and you're going to pull people along with you.
Yeah. And ultimately, self-reflection and understanding your actions and who you are and who you need to become to see the results and have those results stick for a lifetime. That's important.
So awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on again here, Tony. And, this part of our environment really matters. Really take notes of your current space, take notes of your space at work, your business, and then really look inward and ask yourself, am I portraying what I would need? And that's the first place we have to go is inward, and then start projecting that out into your world. And I'll challenge you to see what happens next.